Hey everyone, let's talk about intuitive eating. I've got my cat friend here because even imaginary friends are cool. And we're going to discuss intuitive eating. What does it mean? Should you be doing it? What's the concept? Really, I think intuitive eating now is just a concept of eating where you listen to your body, and you eat the foods that it tells you or at the times that it tells you. And for me, that concept right off the bat doesn't make a lot of sense, and I don't think it actually makes even intuitive sense. Because when you think about intuition, and apply it to something like eating, you forget that we have a lot of more input going on than just hunger cues. We have advertisement commercials, right? We drive past fast food places in our cars. We have peer pressure from friends. We have a lot of things that go beyond just intuition. So if you intuitively asked a little kid what they'd eat, they'd pick the sweets and the candies and the things that taste really, really good rather than the chicken and the broccoli. And maybe from an evolutionary standpoint, that makes sense because if food is scarce and you can't always get a solid meal, you're always going to want to seek out the highest calorie foods available because you don't know when your next meal is coming. But in our modern day, we could plan out all of our meals and our snacks to the T because we have an abundance of food. So intuitively seeking the highest calorie foods makes sense when they're not always when food isn't always available. But now that food is not just available but plentiful, intuitive eating means that maybe we would seek out the highest calorie foods, and since they're always around, we're always going to be seeking the foods that taste the best and have the highest calories and that are easiest obtained. So that right there is a problem for a lot of people. They're trying to listen to their body, and their body is telling them things that maybe evolutionarily don't apply to the modern world. And this goes for a lot of things, especially when you take in different personality types. If you went to the gym and I said, well, just train intuitively, just do whatever, comes naturally to you. Guys would probably do curls, and women might do abs and stuff for their triceps or stuff for their butt, and maybe that would be it because intuitively your instincts would be to work on something that's been influenced by the outside, not just something like, well, I need to sprint, so I better work on my hamstrings or something like that. So let's remove the modern world out of it, and yeah, maybe intuitive eating makes sense. But now that we live in the modern world, I don't think that it does. And so what I would rather focus on is habitual eating because there's no real such thing in the modern world as intuitive eating. What people mistake intuitive eating is just habitual eating because people will say, well, I eat intuitively. I have a lean protein with every meal, and I have a salad, and I don't drink soda. I drink water. I drink half an ounce per pound of body weight. It's like, well, where did you learn that? Did you intuitively know that as a child, that you were going to eat chicken and salads and drink half an ounce of water per pound of body weight? Like, that wasn't intuitive to you. Intuition might just be like, I drink when I'm thirsty, but to have all those specifics, that's trained. And so people often forget that when giving advice. If they apply what they feel comes naturally to them, or at least now comes naturally to them, as what everyone else should be doing. And that's a huge problem in the fitness and nutrition industry, of people always misinterpreting what they're experiencing and applying it to other people. And intuitive eating is the same exact thing. So I tell you, intuitively I eat 4 times a day, and it's always a lean protein. And I end the day with a casein, slow digesting protein. Like, none of that is intuitive. That's all habitual. So instead, let's focus on building habits, because then the habits become something that you may mistake as intuition, but it's just habitual. So what we need to do is forget intuitive eating, because it's probably not going to happen. I don't even know if if I listen to my intuition, I'd just be eating ice cream and peanut butter all the time. So I have to create habits so that then I eat habitually. And then you have these patterns that you follow, and that's what creates success. In terms of habitual eating, so eating off habit-based, I still think the people who say, I kind of just know what to eat, those people are usually full of it, because the people that just kind of have a sense of how much they need to eat, whether they want to gain weight or lose weight or whatever their goals are, those are always the people that weighed and measured and tracked everything meticulously for a long time and then they found out what worked for them, and they're able to kind of visually and habitually recreate that without tracking. But that's not because it came naturally. It's because they built that through the meticulousness of tracking and weighing and measuring and all of that. And then after if you do that for 6 months or a year or multiple years, then you're going to be able to habitually apply that without weighing and tracking and measuring. But you wouldn't be able to do that if you hadn't done all that meticulous stuff first. So let's remove intuitive eating out of it. We want to eat habitually. Now, the basic habitual eating, building habits, is focusing on lean proteins and veggies and starchy carbs and healthy fats. And those are really, really basic things. But if you wanted to get more specific, you would have to spend time being very specific and meticulous, and then being able to apply that in a habitual manner without pouring over things in great depth. But that's more like when you become a chef from a cook. When you're a chef, you don't need to follow a recipe because you followed so many recipes and you've practiced so many techniques over years and decades that you habitually know how to make things. You know how to pair flavors. You can look at a cut of meat and kind of figure out how you got to trim it down, and maybe by the fat content or the connective tissue content, figure out how it needs to be cooked. But you're not going to just intuitively know that. The reason a chef doesn't need to follow a recipe is because they've followed so many recipes that they now habitually know what a good recipe is going to be by combining different ingredients and different cooking techniques. So that's probably the best side-by-side comparison I can make to you. And so don't get caught up in thinking that you're somehow broken because, I just crave pizza and sweets and stuff we all do. And the rare person that doesn't probably craves maybe salty stuff anyway. We all have something that we're leaning towards. And the way that you get around that is not to say that you can't ever have those things, but you have to build habits. Now, whether you just focus on the big rocks habits like protein and veggies and drinking water, that's fine. If you want to get more specific and then apply that in a way that looks habitual, then you have to be a little more detail oriented. But it's only after doing those things for quite some time that you can just habitually apply them and get to where you need to be. So when people say when I go to a friend's house for a party, I just pig out, I don't know what to do. That's because you haven't built habits. That's not because you're a failure or because there's no other options or you don't know enough. You just haven't built the habits yet. So being successful in situations that are less ideal always come down to habits, because you're going to apply the best practice you can in that situation, even if it's not perfect. So if you're going out to a party or a catered event or something like that, and you think maybe the food won't be that good, maybe habitually you're I'm going to need to eat some protein and some veggies there. But you know what? I know they're only getting pizza, so I'm going to eat some chicken and some broccoli before I leave the house. Then when I go, I'm not that hungry, so I'll just have 1 or 2 slices of pizza, and I'll drink some water. I won't drink the soda. And habitually, you've applied the same principle that you would have if you were at home. Now, maybe it wasn't perfect the way you'd want it to be, but you still had those habits applied. So the way we get around it is by applying those habitual things in the manner that best presents itself in that situation. So personally, I'm always looking for a protein source first. It doesn't matter if I'm at the movie theater or a gas station or my home or someone else's house. I'm always going to seek out a protein first. If I can, then I know I'm going to be pretty successful in that meal. Second, I look towards vegetables, just a second habit that I'm applying. If there's no veggies, then maybe I'll try to eat an apple or something like that before I leave the house, so I get some fiber in to fill me up. Always going to carry water with me so I can stay hydrated. And then the rest just comes down to not overeating. Maybe I'm going to have a hot dog or pizza, but maybe I'm not going to have 10 hot dogs and 2 whole pizzas. So that's the difference between success and failure on a nutrition plan, is being able to apply those habits over time in any situation and just doing the best you can in that situation. Yes, you have to be prepared. Yes, it takes a little planning. Yes, you have to think about it. It's not just going to fall into your lap, but that's how habits are created, and that's how success happens. You didn't just accidentally get promoted at work. You didn't accidentally make a ton of money. Those things happen because you constantly work on them and shape them and form them. It doesn't have to be perfect all the time, but you're applying those principles for success over time in as many situations as possible. So you before a party or something like that, you could have a protein shake. If there's alcohol, you could go for like clear alcohol and diet soda. Just applying those little things that shape that situation to the best possible way it can be, even if it's not perfect. And that's what habit-based eating is, and that's when your good nutrition habits become habitual, not intuitive. Because if it was intuitive, I would have 6 beers and then down a pizza, and then on the way home maybe go grab some more beer, because in that moment that's what I feel like doing. But that's not a healthy practice, at least not all the time. So habitually I'm going to try to apply some other things, not intuitively, because I don't trust my intuition when it comes to food, because it's going to steer me towards those higher calorie and more easily obtained foods. So let's think habitually, not intuitively, and then try to free ourselves from perfection and work on making the most of every situation that we can, rather than the all or nothing mentality. What do you guys think?